Would you scrub football jerseys on a Saturday night if it meant buying back your freedom? That's what this week's guest does in his spare time. This week we sit down with my buddy Coy Bergeron, and he goes over how he transitioned from being a full-time pharmacist to flipping, buy and hold rentals, and how when the market got a little bit too tough with interest rate hikes and insurance just going through the roof, how he decided to pivot and try his hand at something else. But something else happened to be building a laundromat empire. He talks about how he bought his first laundromat and how he is working on his second one. He talks about how he's building his empire one state in Jersey and one vending machine at a time. This isn't about chasing passive income. It's about doing the hard work that actually pays off in the long run. If you stick around to the end, you might learn how one laundromat can out-earn 10 rentals, and why Coy's ditching the retire someday moniker that a lot of us live by. This episode might have you rethinking your entire strategy. Coy, I appreciate you joining us. You're our first guest from Louisiana. I've known you for far too long, so we go back to elementary school together. But kind of want to get you on and walk through your journey. You have a different journey. You start off in business, doing stock sales and stuff like that, and stocks, bonds, stuff like that. I could probably be a little more clear, but got your doctorate in pharmacy, so now you're legal to sell drugs, and now you're getting out of that, kind of going more. You did real estate and now going more business. So kind of wanted to get you on and talk about your transition there, learning and growing, and kind of your maturation there as a business owner. So kind of just kick us off. Tell us a little bit about your story, I guess, and how you got here.
Yeah, like you said, I went straight out of high school to college. Went to pharmacy school, didn't quite make the grades, played around a little too much. So went back to my hometown, got a business degree. As a young guy, thinks you're gonna make $1 million because you went to college. Got out, got a job with the company I was working for, a local bank. Made about 20 grand a year, so I moved back in with my parents, and I decided to go back to pharmacy school. And with the maturity, I was 25 when I went back, so it was honestly a lot easier. I mean, pharmacy school is not easy, but a lot easier at 25 than it is at 18. Finished that up. Been a pharmacist since 2010. Great job. Giving me a lot of opportunities. Then I started doing real estate. I think right at the beginning of COVID in 2020, or right before it started, and been doing it ever since. Houses, flips. I have a Airbnb now. I have a laundromat, so kind of all over the place.
What drove you to real estate? How'd you get there?
Ah, man, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what I wanted, why. Don't know. I'm stumbling over my words here, but it's always intrigued me. You hear a lot of people, oh, you made a lot of money on a flip, or a lot of people have real estate in there. I mean, most of them are well-to-do in their retirement age. So wanted to give it a shot. We had the means to do it, so I bought a super cheap house in Rain, that town that I grew up in, and pretty much renovated it 70% myself. A lot of hours. I did have help. I don't know how to do sheetrock and all that, but did that house, learned a hell of a lot, and been doing it ever since. It's actually pretty fun.
Why? So one thing to add, your wife's also a pharmacist. You met her in pharmacy school.
Correct.
So it's not like y'all aren't making good money. Why
Right.
take the risk of flipping houses and doing 70% of it yourself?
Yeah, well, the first one wasn't a flip. I was gonna I read the Burr Method. I don't know if you ever heard of that book. Hell, that's been 5 years. Sorry, I forget who even wrote it now.
David Green.
Great book, great strategy to get into real estate with. So I did that, and it worked out. I mean, I made money on the refinance. Everything was good. The main reason I did most of it myself was to learn. You know, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to do electrical. I didn't know. So a lot of sweat, a lot of equity. We had a young child at the time, but I mean, I had plenty of time to go and do it in the evenings, but it was 7 days a week. I knew after that first one that wasn't the way to do it, but it taught me the cost of materials. It taught me how to hire people, how they show up, things like that. I mean, I just learned a wealth of knowledge doing it myself.
And so when you first bought that first one, was it before you read the Burr book or in the process of?
No, I'm pretty spontaneous, but I do quite a bit of research before. So I had been listening to Bigger Pockets. I'd been doing podcasts. I read a couple books. A lot of motivational stuff like Gary Vaynerchuk and Mike Michalowicz, and I read the Burr book. And well, let me say, I don't read anything. I listen to everything. If it's not an audiobook, I'll never. It's sad. I have a doctorate and I can barely read. That's the joke in my house. Um,
It's funny
so
because
I
I think it's a
listen.
Louisiana thing. I'm
Yeah,
the same way.
maybe. I did plenty of research before I jumped in. But after that, I mean, I'm pretty spontaneous. If I want a house, I put a bid on it and I roll with it and figure it out later.
No, that's awesome, and I think it's important to know that there was some time that went into the front end, and people often don't feel like they're investors until they've finished and sold their first flip, or they've rented out their first property. But I think that becoming an investor starts at the education, where there's a lot of unknowns in this industry, and even the terminology alone, can leave people taking a heavy financial loss. So taking the time to do that research, I think, is important. But after getting that first one done, you said it gave you the confidence to continue moving on, doing more. Is there ever a time that you wish you got into it faster, or do you think you took the right amount of time?
No, I think I took the right amount of time. For one, I mean, I built financial stability with pharmacy first. Um, so even if I did take a loss of some kind, it wouldn't have been catastrophic. You know, it wouldn't have ruined my life. So the I'm a big numbers guy. So if the numbers don't work, then you don't do it. So I think a lot of these people that fail on the first one, like you said, they don't do the research. Or they hear one podcast and they're like, oh, that sounds easy. Let's go do that. But there's a lot of variables that go into that. I mean, I bet I listened to 100 episodes of Bigger Pockets before I even bought the first house. And Louisiana, I bought that house for $40,000. Um, so it wasn't like a devastating. Now I put probably 100,000 into it, but it wasn't a huge financial decision in the beginning. But I did learn a lot, and I see how you can lose, but I also see how it's very hard to lose if you're educated.
And that, I think it's really important to do it that way. And I like that you emphasize, how much education went into the front end, because I mean, I was very similar. It took me 2 years of just learning before making my first offer. But when you say the numbers have to work, that's something that's easy to say in a vague sense. But I think if you can dive a little bit deeper into what it means for a deal to work for you, because what I'm hearing is that $40,000 house was enough risk where it's not going to bankrupt you if it doesn't go well, but enough to where there's some meat on the bone.
Yeah, for sure. So I use the 70% rule. I buy the house and take the cost of the house and plus the renovation costs, and then look at the ARV, or after um, repair value, what I'm going to sell it for. Take 70% of that, and if your purchase price plus your renovations aren't in that 70%, then you move on. You don't put emotion into it. You don't if if it's not, and you have to have strong comps. You need a team. You need real estate agents. You need help. Don't do it by yourself for sure. Reach out to someone that can get you that reasonable ARV.
Absolutely. One of the best jokes that I used to use when I was talking to people, and especially 2021, 2022, when the market was still pretty hot, there was tons of competitive offers and stuff. People would run the numbers. I'd spend time teaching them how to look at the deal. And I'm a broker, a real estate broker. So, I've done this quite a few times, and they would come in with a really strong offer, cash, no inspections, like what, you name it. And they would be confused when they got beat out and people overpay by 40, 50,000, and they're like, how can they make their numbers work? And I'd always remind them that there's always someone who's willing to lose more money than you.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, is it's a risk adjusted return. And if you're looking at it, and the 70% rule, that's a lot of meat in our market now. I can't find any deals that meet that. So I have to adjust my expectations, which means someone else is also adjusting their expectations. And whereas I would do this deal if I made 10,000, they're like, I'll do it if I make 1,000. So it's hard to, when you lose out on deals, not to beat yourself up on that, but it sounds like after that first one went pretty well, gave you the confidence to continue doing more. So what changed in the market that made you start moving into laundromats?
Uh, the market here in Louisiana, the hurricanes pretty much devastated the real estate market. Not wiping out homes. It's just the insurance rates now are so high that the margins, I'm still making money, but you take a house that you planned 5 years ago is making, let's say, 200 a month. Well, that's now like $60 maybe, you know. Um, and I mean, it's still a good play. Don't get me wrong. If you're even breaking even, I think it's a good play to for real estate, rent houses, but just realize it's not something you're going to quit your job over. Um, it's something for the future. If you don't like the stock market, I'm not a huge fan of putting all my money into 401ks and stock markets and things like that. So this is kind of my stock market. Um, and I'm just realizing I'm not as patient as I thought it was. So uh, I listen to more and more podcasts. I mean, I never stop educating myself while you're in the car, while I'm in the car. I'm always listening to podcasts and books and things like that. And they talked about laundromats. So it's kind of, I don't know if I'm just ADD. I'm not ADD really, but it's like shiny object syndrome. I'm like, oh, let's go take a look at that, and I looked into it. The margins are really good. It's a totally different animal. It's not as passive. Nothing's passive. I'm gonna throw that out there right now. If they say it's passive, nothing, unless you have, let's say, a rent house for 140,000 and you buy the rent house cash, then it can be passive. But if you have a mortgage on it, you shop insurances. I mean, there's nothing passive about it.
Hmm. I've been waiting for a laundromat owner to tell me that they got into laundromats just because of how satisfying it is to fill up a 5-gallon bucket full of coins. Because that's my favorite part. We do coin op laundry in our properties, and I just love dumping them out. It's something about that satisfies my.
There's a guy on YouTube or Instagram or something, like he created a whole business just around that one thing. I think it's on YouTube.
It's like an ASMR kind of thing.
Yeah, he just goes to all his laundromats and just dumps it and shows them how much money he made and like making money off from YouTube by doing that?
Now, I know this is maybe going on YouTube, but take YouTube for entertainment value. Because he dumps a bunch of quarters in, but he doesn't tell you how much it costs to run those machines or how much it costs to buy those machines. And no, it's not same thing. If you have a bunch of cash and you can dump it in there, yeah, you'll do well. And I think you'll do better in a laundromat than rent houses. But it's a job and it's something you have to continuously stay on. There's a lot more running pieces that can break, and it's not just a bunch of money rolling in.
We were talking a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned so you got a contract with one of the schools to launder all their football jerseys and stuff. And I don't know if it's part of your sales process or whatever. I don't remember exactly how this broke down, but you were telling me, I think it was like 20 grand if they'd have bought commercial washer and dryers to launder their stuff.
Yeah, they looked at a commercial washer and dryer. They're all the same, no matter what brand you go with. It was $25,000 for one washer and one dryer. Now this is commercial. They can wash. I bet it was probably around a 60 pound machine, which is basically taking 6 loads of clothes at your house and throwing it all in at one time. Way faster. But yeah, $25,000. I mean, we looked at it. It would probably take him at least 10 years to spend that with outsourcing it. Or so I do it now. And it's crazy because I'm doing it myself, I have to learn the business. So I'm a pharmacist that's washing people's clothes on the weekends and at night to learn the business, what takes out stains the best. I'm scrubbing 90 jerseys on a Saturday night, So passive, no, not so much.
But it sounds like, I mean, I understand that that's the growth progression for laundromats, but you start off as the location that provides the machine so people can go do their own. But where the real value add is the wash and fold service, which is much more operationally heavy. And it'd be very easy to just not do that and just continue collecting off the machines. But what you're doing is you're really creating a full operational business around it. And in order for that to be self-sufficient and somewhat passive, you got to learn the process in order to train someone else how to do it. So have you given have you and your wife ever talked about what kind of time frame you're giving yourself to learn the business before hiring someone?
No, my wife's pretty much my best silent partner. She's sitting right there. She she doesn't care what I do, as long as she doesn't have to do it. So she's a pharmacist. She does well. She said this is my baby. She doesn't mind the extra income and what it's paying for, but she's not going to wash any clothes. She washes the clothes here.
You don't even do your own wash and fold?
No, I don't
Hey,
know
so
how
we're gonna
to
have to
fold
talk
mine.
about that.
And my customers get way better folded laundry than I do. Not because my wife does it. Even if I do it, it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't even fold my clothes. I just throw it in the drawer. So they all come out.
They're saying, wash and fold is a way to grow your business. It is way less passive, especially when you're starting. Say you have one drop off, 2 drop offs a week. It's not going to be you start it up and you get all these drop offs, and it's an educational factor too. A lot of people in Louisiana have never heard of this. So yeah, when they drop off, I do it, especially at the new location in Scott. I have an employee in Opelousas that can do it. But in the beginning, it's all quality control, building a good name, and once it's rolling, yeah, I'm not washing clothes anymore.
One thing that stood out to me. So you have or looking into a service, Amazon or whatever, Uber, whoever, go pick up the stuff at people's houses, bring it to you, you fold it, put it back in, and then it brings it back. So like that level.
DoorDash.
Yeah, I remember it was DoorDash or
it's
what it was.
DoorDash, the one that my POS integrates with.
Yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
I was like, that's crazy. Like you literally, someone could just take their stuff, put it on their front porch.
Mm-hmm.
DoorDash picks it up, brings it to you. You wash, fold it, put it in however you do it, and then send it back to them. And they got freshly folded clothes ready
In
for the
a
week.
in 24 hours, yeah. It's a crazy concept, and I'm trying to educate people and make it as affordable as possible. Um, because yeah, you use DoorDash and you don't have to pay an employee to drive there, drive back. You don't have the workman's comp, the liability, the vehicle, but it still costs you around $8 to get it there and $8 to get it back. So you have to factor that into how much they're giving you, how much you have to put in a minimum. Um, so, I mean, it's a great thing. I think it's well worth it. If you're paying someone $12, $15 an hour just to go pick up one order a day, no, that doesn't make any sense.
So is that, will you eventually, so like we'll use Amazon as an example. They kept adding stuff, and when they were doing the delivery, they formed it out to the post office originally, but now they have their own Amazon delivery. Is that kind of part of your service that you want to end up building? You want to be
Yes.
the Amazon of Lafayette?
Yeah, once it gets to a certain area, once it gets to a certain size, there's certain geographical areas within Lafayette that's going to use the service. So once, say, you get 20, 30 orders a day, probably half to 60% are going to come from those same neighborhoods. So at that point, it makes sense to hire your own driver because it's not going to cost $7 every single time, $7, $8 to bring it back to the facility. He can pick up 16 loads and bring it back to the facility. And the same thing when he drops them off. Drop them all off at the same time. So it just makes more sense at that point to move to that for sure.
Is there any other revenue generating other than the wash and fold that you've considered or you've tested?
Well, I opened my son a vending machine business within the laundromat, so kind of teaching him business. We bought the 2 machines. He has to pay us back, and then he's gonna have to give some, spend some, save some. So that, I mean, you're definitely not gonna retire on vending machines unless you have a lot, and there's always a problem with them. But I'm looking into a bunch of different things. Stain removal is one. I read a book on stain removal. That's how cool I am. uh, and so, like, I'm testing it on all these jerseys and things like that. It's crazy how easy some stains are to remove and how hard some stains are to remove. But testing that. Blankets are a huge market. Blankets, comforters. You can drop it off at my facility and have it done by us for $20. And it's crazy how long people go without washing their comforters just because you don't think about it and it doesn't fit in your washer and dryer.
It's interesting. You have to wash your sheets every week, but no one ever washes their comforter.
Their comforter, yeah.
It's touching you just as much as the sheets are.
Mm-hmm.
And you need that space in your washing machine. Like, you can cram it in there, but it's not really cleaning it because there's no way for it to move around. So you need at least a 45-pound machine for a comforter. That way it gets the agitation and things like that to actually clean it. They can definitely tell the difference. And stain removal and those kind of things. I'm doing that all for free now because I'm just learning.
Mm. In the vending machines, are they just food and drinks vending machines, or are they doing like laundry detergent and dryer sheets and stuff?
No, it's just food and drink right now. I do need to buy a wall vending machine for dryer sheets and powder or liquid detergent. But I have that attendant in there, so I let him sell some things. And once you get into retail, versus service, it's a whole different animal too. You got to pay taxes and keep track of all that. So self-serve is quite nice. You don't have to track it as much.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that it's a good revenue model, but honestly, I feel like it's so much more of a time commitment to keep up with just the vending machine side. So I love that you're including your son in that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How do you market this new service? I mean, like you said, it's not typical service that people use this day and age or
Right.
at the time. How are you marketing? How are you getting people to change their mindset around it?
I am a terrible marketer. I have a marketing degree in business. I know how to do it, I just can't execute it. And this social media stuff, I guess I missed the boat on that. I'm 44, so I am garbage at social media advertising. That's, I think, the main way to do it is social media. Um, I'm trying. I throw my posts out there. They say there's an algorithm. I don't. It's kind of like the cloud. I don't know what none of that is. um, but I have. There's a local publication in Lafayette that the major neighborhood that I'm focusing on. It probably has 400 or 500 houses in it. I'm in their publication. It's hard. I mean, marketing, when you're starting a business, marketing's expensive, like really expensive. So you're trying to pay the electric and these machine notes and all this, and then they're like, "Hey, I'll do your Facebook for $600 a month." You're like, it doesn't make any sense, you know, because it's hard to quantitate how much business you're getting from that versus just word of mouth. But I do need to do more because word of mouth is not working. So I'm debating now if I'm going to do a per pound model where your clothes is $2 a pound delivered, or a per bag, which I think the per bag may be an easier concept to grasp. So I have a large laundry bag and you fill it up. I don't care if you pack it in there. You fill it up and it's, let's say, $40, $50 picked up at your house, folded and delivered back. You know, doesn't matter what's in there. I think that's an easier concept because, like, if I tell you a load of towels, you don't know what a load of towels, and you send your whole laundry department or laundry loads to me, like, oh God, I hope this doesn't come back at $120, you know? Whereas you put it in the bag, you know, you're paying $40. So that's my next obstacle.
Yeah, I got a not that I dry clean a lot. You know, black shirts don't need a lot of dry cleaning, but I have a Tide. The laundry place is called Tide here locally, and that I went to, and that's what they do. I have a orange bag, and I just put all my stuff in there, and they based on how much. I mean, I never
Do
pack
they
it
do
all
it
in.
by the bag?
I think so.
By the
I think-
pound, because I've seen by the bag. We did it was Max Walker, Max L
Yeah.
Walker, something like that, and we did it by the bag. But I got 7 kids, and so we were like, we're paying. I don't remember what it was per bag. It was maybe $20, $30 per bag per week, and we get it picked up on like a Tuesday. We get it back on Friday. It's like, okay, that's 4 days without my clothes, or I got to
Yeah.
pay, I don't know, $300 just to get all the kids' clothes done. I'm like, so then I tried doing it just my wife's and my clothes because I'm like, at least our stuff can get washed and folded. But then we realized we don't have enough clothes to go 4 days without them, you know. So it was just a little bit of a logistical nightmare. But also they were at the size and scale where I saw their vans. They were piled, you know, to the ceiling just with different bags. And I was like, it's a miracle that I even got my clothes back at the same ones that I dropped off. So,
That's what
Yeah.
surprises me the most and that's what would scare me the most is I don't wear expensive clothes, but say someone that does, what does a bag cost? Like, you know, like as far as volume of clothing. So you've got $2,000 worth of clothes in there.
mhm,
Now your guys lose it, and who's on the hook for the loss?
right.
$2,000 worth of, you know, it could be a $2,000 suit, just one thing.
I think it'd be hard to lose the bag, but
Probably deliver to the wrong person.
you could ruin clothes, or drop it over the wrong house and never get it. Yeah, That's I hope I get to that that level and I have those problems. But right now, it's hard to lose one bag and return one bag. But yeah, I think a 4-day turnaround is way too much. We just went to Disney, and I was like, I'm going to use a wash dry fold so I don't have to wash anything. And it was like a 3-day turnaround, which didn't make any sense to me. If it's not, I think 48 hours is the max. But I want to do everything in 24, 28, so you get it back the next day. I think that makes a lot more sense, and it's worth the money at that point. I mean, you get it back in 4 days. Like I work 3 days a week, and I have three work outfits. That's it. So if they're all in the wash,
Yeah,
uh,
You mentioned that you just went to Disney. I want to kind of unpack that. So you actually went to Orlando for a laundry conference,
a
and
clean
then
show.
and it turned that into a family thing. I mean, we're not financial advisors or CPAs or anything like that, but that is a benefit of what you were doing. Like you had to go there, or you didn't have to, but you wanted to go learn how to get stains and all that stuff out of everything, and so you go there for a couple of days, and then turn it into a trip with the wife and kid.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And that's another benefit of being an entrepreneur. You get certain tax benefits when you make decent money. I mean, a pharmacist does have a good living. You see how much taxes you're paying. So it's entrepreneur can make the same amount of livable income, but without paying all the taxes, you can make a lot less and still do very well. You can write cars off, and because I mean, I'm using everything for the business, cell phones, things like that. So there's a lot of things run through the business, and that's just another benefit of being an entrepreneur.
yeah, you're paying with pre-tax dollars versus post-tax dollars as well.
Exactly.
So that helps out a lot. One thing I want to talk about, and you mentioned it before we start recording, but is education and college, how expensive it is. You spent 6 figures in your, between scholarships and all that stuff, but it was over 6 figures in your education. But then I'll kind of pick on you for this, but so now you go down this route, and you only use free education. You only use YouTube University or books. Books cost $20 or whatever they cost, but you've never paid for coach, mentorship, anything like that. But yet you spent 6 figures on a college education. So, one, would you recommend college for Carter, your son? And why not pay for education when you were willing to get a college degree 25 years ago?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. I push for. I don't think everyone should go to college. I think too many people go to college. It's way too watered down now. I got a business degree, and I have a degree in podcast. And the degree in podcast, you can learn what you need to learn and cut. There's a bunch of fluff in there that you're paying for. So no, I don't. If Carter said I want to be a general business major, I was like, well, I'm not paying for that. But if he wants to be a doctor, a pharmacist, specialized, yeah, for sure. I don't think you should be learning your law degree on a podcast. But paying for education, I think I will at some point. I try to do everything within the means of the company. Like I could dip into my personal money and do education, but I'm trying to keep it within the means of the business because it's not my primary source of income. I think if it was my primary source of income, yes. Get the education, go find out from someone who is doing thousands of pounds of wash, dry, fold a day, so you can scale relatively quickly. I don't need a scale. I can take my time, and I don't know how to put this, but it's I don't know if I'm doing this to sell it later as like an investment or if it's something I want to do forever, you know. Pharmacy I can do for a very long time. So multiples in laundromats and wash dry fold and things like that, it's around 5. So you build a great business, you sell it at a 5 times multiple. Kind of my thinking now. But I think if you're relying on this and your family needs to eat on this, yes, then even if you put it on a credit card, you know, I don't suggest you put everything on credit, but they have plenty of interest free for 15 months, you know. If you can pay that back in 15 months to go get a $5,000, $6,000 course from someone that's doing it way better than you already, absolutely. But I mean, I have the time, the luxury of time just to figure it out now. And once it's overwhelming, then I think I'll go like the logistics. You were talking about losing bags and things like that. Once I lose that $2,000 bag, it may be time to go figure out how they're doing it and they're not losing anything.
Yeah, that's a good way. I told you I was going to pick on you. I didn't tell you exactly which one. But we've talked about education because I'm kind of from the opposite. Like I've spent probably more money than I care to admit to myself, and definitely more money than I care to admit to my wife on education. But I also never spent 6 figures on college. I mean, the government's always paid for mine, so I mean, someone's paid for it. But
Right.
so it's kind of I do find that. I'm a big fan of education. I'm not a big fan of college, so I guess I just
But
leave it that
and
way.
I agree with that. But I think what I'm hearing is the specialized degrees where you can maximize your earning capacity and you're very you know exactly what you're going to be doing when you get out is where there's a good use for it. But just going generalized and having no goal, no intention behind it, that's a waste of money. And I agree that there's too many people like that figure out what they want to do in their mid 20s and they already got this useless degree. And now it's like, well, I guess I'm stuck here. But if you focus on maximizing your earning capacity, which is what you've done by being the solo entrepreneur, you know, still doing the work, is making the most amount of money you can during your, you know, able-bodied years so that someday you don't have to. But I think people obsess too much about starting with the end in mind and knowing exactly where I'm going to exit and I'm in a rush to maximize this value and I got to hire on all the employees and everything's got to be passive. But I really like that you're just kind of riding it out and learning as you go. There's no pressure behind it. But also I think that that's because that you took the time to get a specialized degree.
Correct.
Not only that, but when he mentioned it, but I don't think it was highlighted enough. Not only or do you have a specialized degree and you're doing pharmacy, but you've also maximized your time that you only work 3 12-hour shifts a week. And you can still, from your phone, you know, help run the business from there. You're not, as a pharmacist, you're not bogged down by that you can't help out there. So you have 4 other days that you're completely free a week to help out and help run the business. So you've maximized your time as well. So
Yeah, and I can't just sit still. So that's why I'm kind of doing everything. I'm off 4 days a week, and I mean, it's amazing. You can have so much more valuable time, but I have those days where I can go to the rent houses and just do it leisurely. You know, that's kind of I spoke with you. I think it was off camera, but looking at selling my rent houses now because a laundromat's a lot different than a rent house. So right now it's becoming overwhelming, and I have a job, I have rent houses, and then I have the laundromat now. Well, I'm seeing that I like the laundromat more, so I'm going to liquidate the rent houses and try to build the laundromat industry. But I mean, that's just a luxury I have. Due to having a full-time job.
Yeah. So kind of speak to that. Why you said you don't like the stock market that much. So real estate was kind of your stock market, but now you're switching again. So you were selling stocks and bonds to not liking stocks and bonds. So investing in real estate. Now you're pivoting again. Kind of where what's kind of driving that? Is it just desire, I guess, like what you enjoy with your time, or is it the financial return? Is it financial freedom? Is it teaching your son business? What's kind of driving a lot of that?
Yeah, it's kind of just a mindset I have, kind of my personality that I'm always learning, you know. So instead of the radio in the car and things like that, I'm either listening to a podcast or an audiobook. Um, so instead of just sitting at home on the 4 days I have off, you know, it's kind of a way to learn a new craft or skill. Or so I got into real estate. Uh, I mean, it's fun at the same time as rewarding. I mean, it's stressful at times too. I mean, it's not like I'm rich or anything like that. I have to, I live check to check on my rentals, but luckily not in my normal life, you know. And at that point, it's just not fun anymore. So it's time to pivot, or figure out a way how to make more, like Airbnbs or Furnish Finder or something like that, within your rentals. And I've made mistakes throughout, you know, like I shouldn't have done certain things that put me in these situations. I should have taken it slower. Um, but I mean, hindsight's the best investor that's ever lived. So,
Yeah, you've tried
I
out
wish-
different things. Like you mentioned long term. You had sober living houses for a while, Airbnb. So you've tried out different furnish. You mentioned Furnish Finder. So
yeah,
um,
I pretty much tried everything in the real estate uh, area. Um, and I mean, you find what works for you, and I think you maximize that. It doesn't matter if it takes you 5 years or 2 minutes. You know, you found it in the first one. You know.
So you use the word pivot. You also talked earlier about shiny object syndrome. Do you have any kind of internal conflict of deciding whether something is a pivot that's intentional or you're chasing the next shiny object?
I think that's where hindsight comes in again. Uh, yeah, like it's a great idea right now, but who knows what it's going to be in 6 months. Hopefully it is. I mean, I see the potential. Like I'm a numbers guy. You know, you see the potential of, let's say, 20 rent houses versus 2 to 3 laundromats. You know, what it's bringing in, what it's cost. Uh, so your net income at the end of the day, and how much 20 rent houses, how many problems can you have versus 3 buildings. The best rentals I have are the one I bought 4 houses on one piece of property. And geographically, I mean, that's why multifamily and things like that most investors get into, because they realize that 20 houses on 20 different geographical locations, even in the same town, can be a headache.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And I always say this, I want to make the same amount of money with less properties. So that's kind of my goal there.
See, I feel like rabbit and the hare, or the turtle and the hare, because your method is so slow and smooth is fast, and mine is like bouncing off the walls, making as many mistakes as I can until I figure out how to do it right. And I feel like somewhere in between us, there is an ideal scenario that they've got it all figured out.
I don't recommend either one of those.
what you mentioned a couple times the returns on Laundromat. Can you kind of unpack that as far as from just the numbers from a macro scale of things?
So I don't really know how much. I mean, I claim everything. I hear all these. That's another thing. Everybody in the laundromat. I've tried to buy laundromats, and they're like, I don't have books for the last 12 years. I'm like, Jesus. Well, and okay, fine. If you don't get caught, whatever. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. So you can't say I'm making 10 grand a month, but there's no way to tell you, and I want 5 times the multiple on that. So you can have it all in the front end and then sell in the back end for nothing, or claim it all and use the tax code in your advantage, which I plan on doing, and sell it at a high multiple in the future. So a rent house, let's say I made $100,000 rent house, rents out here for around, let's say, $600 a month. That's probably a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in the country. I have some that are doing a little better. Let's say $800 a month. But after your mortgage, your insurance, let alone it's an adjustable mortgage, because every, I think, 5 years you have to reevaluate it because it's a business. I'm making probably nowadays 100, 150 a house per month. So whereas the laundromat, I'm bringing in, now the laundromat cost me around 400,000, and probably bringing in, let's say, 8,000 a month. The overhead is really high now because the machines were, I have 12 washers and 12 dryers, and you're looking at about $200,000. And then I was able to buy the property, which was cheaper than the machines. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'm making, let's say, 1,000, 1,500 a month after expenses. But I don't even look at it in the now. I look at it in the, so 900 a month when the rent house is paid off, or 8,000 a month. This is gross. 8,000 a month when the laundromat's paid off. I would need 10 rent houses to make the same amount as one laundromat. Now there is, and all the machines are under warranty for 5-10 years, something like that. Now, when those machines go out, yeah, it's rough. But making $100 on a rent house and a stove goes out, that's 2 months. The AC goes out, you just lost, that's 7-8 grand. Like, it's almost impossible to regain that.
Yeah, that is the downside of real estate, is when something goes wrong. I think everybody says, "Oh, I'm making $200 a month," but then they aren't taking in those stoves or the hail damage that you get from a storm, and now your insurance went up even more.
Yeah.
You mentioned
People on the internet love gross. They love gross numbers. They don't tell you the net. They like the grand number. Like, it's all like, people are like, oh my God, you own 10 rent houses. I'm like, it's not as awesome as you think it is.
I heard some recently. It was like gross is for the ego, nets for the IRS.
Yeah. So, are you planning on still investing in real estate? I know, like for me, I invest in business as the cash flow, and business or real estate more as the so I don't have to pay the IRS as much money, as my 401k or my whatever. So is that kind of your play, or what are you planning on doing there? Or are you just planning on living on quarters the rest of your life?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, my next laundromat will not have a quarter exchanger. It's going to be straight cord. I'm not dealing with that anymore. But the plan now is to sell the rentals. I like flipping houses, like that's fun. I wouldn't mind flipping a couple houses in a while. Like I said, I mean, if I had one laundromat and I have 4 days off a week and I have an attendant, got to do something. So, and flipping houses, you're not dealing with tenants. You're not dealing with, and if you have the crew uh, infrastructure there, you're it's pretty good. It's a fun little process. Now you do pay a ton of taxes at the end, but it's a good way to pay off some bad debt as well. So the Electrolux, that's who I have. They'll finance you 100% on these machines. Now the note is over 3,000 a month. So if I can get rid of some of this bad debt by flipping houses, that's kind of the plan. Try to get as a bad debt free as possible.
So break that down. Why is it bad debt to you? It's still an asset.
Yeah, it's still an
Making you money
it's
every
just
month.
it's just higher interest rates. So these 8-9% interest rates, which I think we're in a age where we've seen a 2% and people are freaking out, but this is normal, like this is the norm. Um, the that's bad debt. I have some debt in a home equity line of credit that I use for construction cost and things like that. I mean, that's a straight variable rate. I consider that bad debt. So if you're investing on bad debt, I mean, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Not even failure, more like you're gonna break even. You're not gonna see these gains like these people that are talking about. So take it slow. That's what I did. I did the Burr method, and then I started buying assets with the line of credit. So I put down a down payment on these 4 houses. So instead of zero out of pocket, now I have this bad debt of 30,000 at 8% interest. Then I did it again. So you have the good debt mixed in with the bad debt. Keep the good debt. I have interest rates of 4% on these rent houses and things like. Why pay that off? But if you can get rid of that extra note of bad debt of 500-600 a month, I mean, you're just doing that much better.
Yeah. I don't know if I go as far as call it bad debt personally, but I definitely think it is more risky debt. You know, me and Valerie have talked about that, and she's like, why aren't you making any money off the business right now? I was like, because business is riskier than a rental house. A business can go to zero. A house isn't going to go to zero. You have insurance. You know, even if it burns down, you still get insurance. So, like I said, I think it's riskier debt. I wouldn't call it bad debt, but it's tomato at that point in time. Really,
Yeah.
you know, it's business is way more risky than real
Yeah,
estate.
for sure. And
But
that's
it's high
the
recurring.
laundromat. Yeah. Do your homework. Like if you put a laundromat in the nicest neighborhood in your town, you're gonna make $0. It's you're gonna be in the low income areas. It's amazing. I'm in the low income area of Opelousas, but the gratitude I get, they're not used to nice things coming in, and I keep mine super nice, and I hire an attendant. I'm not making any money hiring an attendant. I'm losing money, but it stays that safe place that I'm building a brand around.
I was going to say the same thing about when you're talking marketing. That, I mean, well, if you're trying to build a big chain or big franchise, the laundromats, then I get social media is probably necessary. But right now, being the small town, laundromat, the newspaper and the parks and gas stations, flyers, stuff like that, they probably give you a little bit more leverage with the clientele that come to laundromats than doing social media campaigns. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'd have to look up to get the exact numbers, but Lafayette population is probably 150,000, somewhere right around there. I don't know exactly what it. Opelousas is probably 50,000, maybe. I don't even know what
No,
Opelousas.
not even.
It's not even
No,
that big.
maybe. Yeah, 20, 25, I would think. Somewhere around
Yeah,
there. Maybe.
I don't know. I'd have to look them up,
So
but yeah,
you'd have better luck putting a flyer up at the local diner than you would doing a TikTok dance. So
Yeah.
I
I think
don't
Coy
Um,
will do good TikTok dances though.
oh, yeah, for sure.
know.
The I don't know where I left off there. The doing something for the small town, I think, is more beneficial. A lot of people talk, um, sponsoring things because that's really not a big expense. Like $100, you can sponsor, get your name out there. Um, then doing the masses on Facebook. But Google is important to get those keywords out there, especially for wash, dry, fold. They're going to find your laundromat. And the same people that's using your laundromat are not the people that are going to use wash, dry, fold. I mean, there's a small percentage, but it's two totally different demographic groups. That's just a way to build the business on both ends.
Have you ever, going back to the marketing thing, thought about partnering with businesses, or you're talking about the area you're talking about, been in
Yeah.
their flyers and stuff like that, but those businesses inside there?
Well, right now, I don't know if this is what you mean, but yeah, that's why I say I have 1.5 laundromats. There's a laundromat in Lafayette that I talked to the owner, and I put some laundry lockers in there where you can drop off clothes. And I'm going to be running the pickup and delivery mainly out of that location. Logistically, you need it within 5 to 6 miles for that DoorDash to even work because it's like 75 cents a mile after that. So you need a location that's within that geographic area that you want to serve. So I went and talked to this guy. I'm going to use his machine. So he's making the money on everything on wash, dry, fold. And in the future, if it kicks off, then we'll talk about partnering. But I mean, super low barrier to entry, didn't cost me anything. And now I can test my concept.
Nice.
I mean, from what I've heard about Louisiana, it sounds like the next step to any business is just getting your liquor license.
For sure.
You smile
Oh,
with every
Lord.
bag.
No. Laundry and liquor are definitely not I don't know if you've ever been to a laundromat. That's not what you want.
Bad news.
There's definitely some drinking in Louisiana. So, so you spent a lot of time on this. Talk about how you kind of bring your son into it. I know he's there with you at a lot of your flips, and I assume business and stuff like that. What's he? Does he listen to all these podcasts and books as well with you?
No, he's 10 years old. He takes my phone and turns Bluetooth off immediately. So I don't get to listen to podcasts when he's in the car. I mean, it's a legacy for him. Mainly I have one child. So hopefully this is a legacy that he can take over. So just so he doesn't have to work so hard. I mean, it's a hard world, whatever you want to say these days, but I'm not going to give it to him. I want him to learn the process. But it's just something to look forward to. To say we spend a bunch of time together doing it, no. We used to when we would tear down houses. I mean, he would love putting a hammer through a wall, We would love doing that together. But it takes away a lot too. You're not there a lot. And a big aspect of what I do, I love spending time with family. So I make sure that on these days off, I'm starting in the morning and finishing where I can pick them up from school. So there's no more. I outsource pretty much everything now. I don't do the hammers and all that anymore. I learned what I needed to learn. Now I'm handing it off to someone way better than me. It took me 8 months to do my first flip, where the second one I hired a guy. It was like 3 months, maybe. So um, the knowledge is worth everything, but at some point you got to give it to somebody that knows what they're doing.
I definitely agree with that. I'm all about hiring out people. You and I were talking before, and I think we both said, like, I said it this way, you said it a little differently, but like, my superpower is not being good at anything and knowing that I need to hire everything out. So it's definitely a good thing. So I think it's the only way you can scale. What's the proverb? Go fast alone, go far together. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So
I sat down with one of our investors the other day, and he was talking to me about this book called Quit, which is like the opposite of everything in the professional development space and all that stuff. And he's like, it's basically about knowing the right time to walk away from things. And the more I think about it, the more is that I'm just really good at that. Because when I'm renovating a property, every time, like, stub my toe on something, or I'm chopping trees down, and just like, I tell my wife every time, this is the last time you'll catch me chopping a tree. It's the last time you'll catch me raking leaves. And but I do think it's important to do one time, just so you know what goes into it, when you're getting overcharged, and, all those different things. But I'm not the one that wants to be the one sweating at my properties all the time.
I'll second that. Well, Coy, before we let you go, I guess kind of ended and asked, what is freedom to you? Like, what are you, out of all of this, the legacy play, the financial play, the time, all that stuff, what's kind of your guiding light, if you will, your freedom play?
Well, right now, like I said, I'm always listening to something, and the more education you get, it kind of changes. So I just started a book called Die with Zero. And within the last week, my freedom has changed. I have a lot of freedom now. Freedom to me is not working for someone else. It's for money. That's basically my definition of freedom. But I have a job that's lenient and nice enough where I think I can work till I'm 85 years old. So after starting this book, I'm like on chapter 4, but like it's sent me into a spin where it's like, okay, making memories is huge. And you have the money to make memories. So let's make the memories now in your 40s, because I can work as a pharmacist at 80. Yeah, I talked to all these financial advisors. They're like, you need $100,000 a month to retire. And I'm like, I just started thinking about it. I'm like, I can do that working 3 days a week. Well, especially in 20 years. So that's kind of my freedom now, is enjoy my 40s, because it doesn't get any easier. 30s were more fun. 40s, I can't imagine 60s, 70s, finally having that financial freedom. And everybody says financial freedom, but like I said, there's nothing passive. So if you're doing those flips, but you have to be in there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day to be financially free and not get a W-2, are you really free? You're free from your boss and your W-2, but you're just working harder for your money. Even little things. I just want to spend time with my son. My wife sent me a little Airbnb she wants to go to in October. I'm like, book it, Let's stop worrying about. Now, I was a big Dave Ramsey fan. I believe in the emergency funds and things like that, because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. But even if you can't go to Disney or go skiing in Aspen, take 10 little trips. Take your kids in the woods and go shoot BB guns, something. just enjoy life. I think as Americans, we work too damn much for the 2 weeks of freedom that we get. So that's my freedom, is to finish this book. May have to have a follow-up podcast, may change. But that's my freedom, is to enjoy the time I have while I can still move and hike and do things like that. And then when I get old, I can still work. I pick that. Now, if you're a bricklayer, no, make as much money as you can now, because you can't do that at 70. But yeah, that's my freedom right now.
Yeah, I'll be interested to follow up with you and see what you think of the book. I like the beginning. The end, I think it takes a little too far personally, but be interested to see your thoughts on it by the time you get there. So, but yeah, well, I appreciate it. I don't know if you got anything closing. So.
No, it's really interesting to hear your journey and kind of the path you're taking. It's not often that I talk to people who are very confident in being the work in the business and have no intention of scaling themselves out. So I really like that perspective, and I appreciate you sharing it with us.
So, cool. Thank you, Coy.
For sure. I appreciate it. Thank y'all.